My name is Daniel, and this happened 3 years ago, just a few days before Christmas. I had stayed late at work that night, the kind of late where the office is already half dark and everyone else has gone home. The only reason I remember the exact date is because the Christmas music was still playing faintly through the building's speakers when I finally shut my computer down. December 22nd, 2 days before Christmas Eve. I lived alone at the time in a small duplex on the edge of town. It wasn't a bad area, just quiet. Most of my neighbors were older couples or families who went all out with decorations every year. Inflatable Santas, blinking reindeer, lights wrapped around trees and fences. Normally, I liked that about the neighborhood. It made the winters feel warmer. That night, though, something about it felt off. When I pulled into my driveway, I noticed right away that the house across the street was dark, completely dark. No lights, no decorations, nothing. That wouldn't have mattered much, except that the woman who lived there was always home. She never traveled, never missed a holiday, and she usually had her lights on before sunset. I remember thinking maybe she'd gone to stay with family. I locked my car, grabbed my bag, and went inside. The house felt colder than usual, even with the heat on. I chalked it up to being tired. I made a frozen dinner, turned on the TV for background noise, and tried to relax. Outside, snow had started falling again, soft and steady, coating everything in white. The streetlights reflected off it, making the whole neighborhood glow faintly orange. Around 9:30, I noticed something strange. The Christmas lights outside my bedroom window were blinking. At first, I didn't think much of it. The house next to mine had lights strung along their fence, and sometimes they flickered. But when I actually looked, I realized the lights weren't coming from their yard. They were coming from mine. I hadn't put any lights up that year. I stood there for a moment, staring through the glass, confused. Sure enough, along the side of my house, right below my bedroom window, were strands of multicolored Christmas lights. Red, green, blue, blinking slowly in a pattern. My stomach dropped. I knew for a fact those lights hadn't been there earlier that day. I would have noticed them when I got home. I would have noticed them pulling into the driveway. And I definitely didn't own lights like that. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pressing my face closer to the window. The lights were attached carefully, almost neatly, running along the siding beneath the window. That's when I noticed the footprints. They were fresh, deep impressions in the snow leading from the sidewalk around the side of my house and stopping right below the window. Whoever had done this hadn't tried to hide it. They walked straight up like they belonged there. I backed away from the window slowly. My first thought was that maybe someone was messing with me. A prank. A weird holiday joke. But the longer I stood there, the more uncomfortable I felt. There was something deliberate about it, like someone wanted me to notice. I locked my bedroom door and went downstairs, checking every window and door in the house. Everything was locked. No signs of forced entry, no movement outside. Still, I didn't sleep well that night. The next morning, the lights were gone. Not broken, not torn down. Gone completely, like they'd never been there. The footprints were still visible though, or at least what remained of them under the new layer of snow. I followed them with my eyes and felt a chill run through me. They didn't lead away from the house. They stopped right at the side of the building, as if whoever had been there had simply vanished. I called in sick to work that day. I told myself I was overreacting, but something in my gut wouldn't let it go. I stayed home, keeping the curtains closed, jumping at every sound. That night, around the same time, I saw the lights again. This time, they were closer. They were strung directly across my bedroom window, blinking softly, just inches from the glass, close enough that I could see the tiny scratches on the plastic bulbs. I didn't approach the window. I couldn't. Instead, I heard something else. A faint tapping, slow, rhythmic, like someone gently tapping a fingernail against glass. I stood frozen in the hallway, phone shaking in my hand, when the tapping stopped. And then I heard a voice, low, calm, almost cheerful. "Daniel," it said softly, right outside my window. "Merry Christmas." I called the police immediately. By the time they arrived, the lights were gone again. No one was there. They took a report, checked the yard, and told me they'd patrol the area more frequently because of the holidays. They never found anyone. I stayed with my sister for Christmas. A week later, when I finally came back to pack some things, I noticed something I hadn't before. On the inside of my bedroom window, etched faintly into the glass, were words I was sure hadn't been there before. They were hard to see unless the light hit them just right. "You looked lonely." I moved out 2 weeks later. To this day, I don't decorate for Christmas anymore. And every time I see blinking lights outside a window at night, I feel that same sinking feeling in my stomach, like someone is standing just out of sight, waiting for me to notice. I don't like Christmas Eve anymore. People always assume it's because something tragic happened, like I lost someone, or there was an accident, or a fire. But it wasn't anything like that. It was quieter, subtler, and in a way that makes it worse. This happened 5 years ago, when I was living in a small apartment above a closed-down bakery. The building was old, probably from the 1950s, and it had a weird layout. The landlord had split it into 2 units, mine upstairs and an empty one below that never stayed rented for long. Something was always wrong with it, according to him. I didn't care. It was cheap, and I was broke. That Christmas, I couldn't afford to travel home. My family lived across the country, and work had been slow, so I told them I'd visit in January instead. On Christmas Eve, I was completely alone. I tried to make it feel festive anyway. I bought a tiny fake tree, strung some lights around the living room, and made myself dinner. Outside, the town was quiet. Most of the businesses had closed early, and the streets felt emptier than usual. Around 8 p.m., I decided to take a shower. I remember checking my phone beforehand. No missed calls, no messages. I left it charging on the kitchen counter and turned on some music before getting in. The shower was hot, and the steam fogged up the bathroom mirror almost immediately. I stood there longer than usual, just letting the water run, trying to relax. That's when I heard it, the phone ringing. At first, I thought it was part of the song playing. I turned the water down and listened more carefully. It was definitely my phone. The ringtone echoed faintly through the apartment, distorted by the walls and the steam. I finished up quickly, wrapped myself in a towel, and walked out into the kitchen. The phone had stopped ringing. That wasn't unusual. People hang up. I checked the screen anyway, expecting to see a missed call. There wasn't one. No notification. No missed call log. Nothing. That gave me pause. I stood there for a second, staring at the phone, when it rang again. This time, I was standing right next to it. The screen lit up, but instead of showing a number or contact name, it just said, unknown. I hesitated. I don't normally answer unknown numbers, especially that late, but it was Christmas Eve, and something in me thought maybe it was family calling from another phone, or someone I knew trying to reach me. So I answered, "Hello?" For a moment, all I heard was breathing. Slow, steady, like someone holding the phone close to their mouth. "Hello?" I repeated, louder this time. There was a pause. Then a man's voice came through the speaker. "You shouldn't have answered that." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my heart pounding. I told myself it was a prank call. People do that, especially around the holidays. But the voice hadn't sounded playful or drunk or rushed. It sounded calm, certain. I checked the call log again. Still nothing. No record of the call ever happening. I locked the door and tried to laugh it off, but the apartment felt different after that. Too quiet, too still. I turned the TV on and sat on the couch, phone clutched in my hand. At exactly 9:12 p.m., the phone rang again. Same thing, unknown. This time, I didn't answer. The ringing went on longer than usual. 10 seconds, 15, 20, long enough that I wondered if it would stop at all. When it finally did, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Then the landline rang. I froze. I should explain, the apartment had an old wall-mounted landline phone in the kitchen. I didn't use it. I didn't even know the number. I'd never plugged anything into it, but there it was, ringing, a harsh, mechanical sound that cut through the apartment. Slowly, I walked into the kitchen and stared at it. The phone kept ringing. I didn't pick it up. After about 6 rings, it stopped. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Then I heard footsteps, not upstairs, downstairs, in the empty unit below me. I stood there, listening, my pulse hammering in my ears. The footsteps moved slowly, deliberately, like someone pacing across a room. I grabbed my jacket and keys, fully planning to leave. That's when the phone rang again. The landline. Against every instinct I had, I picked it up. "Hello?" The same breathing came through the receiver. Then the voice. "I told you not to answer." My throat went dry. "Who is this?" There was a faint sound in the background this time. A creaking noise. Like stairs. "I'm almost done downstairs," the voice said. "Then I'll come up." I slammed the phone down and ran. I didn't bother grabbing anything else. I didn't even lock the door behind me. I ran down the stairs, out into the snow-covered street, and didn't stop until I reached a gas station 2 blocks away. I called the police from there. They came back with me and searched the building. The downstairs unit was empty, just like it had always been. No signs of forced entry, no footprints in the snow behind the building. They told me it was probably a prank call and suggested I stay with a friend for the night. I didn't argue. I moved out the next week. Here's the part that still keeps me up at night. A few days after Christmas, I checked my phone bill. There were no incoming calls listed at all for that night, but there was one outgoing call at 9:14 p.m. from my phone to the landline number in my apartment. I never plug that phone in again, and I never stay alone on Christmas Eve anymore. because I still don't know who answered when I picked up that call. I was 14 years old when this happened, old enough to know when something felt wrong, but still young enough to doubt myself. It was Christmas morning, and my parents were already awake downstairs. I remember hearing plates clink together and the low hum of the TV playing one of those early morning holiday specials. The smell of coffee and cinnamon filled the house. Everything felt normal. Safe. I came down the stairs in my pajamas, expecting the same routine as every year. That's when I noticed it. There was an extra present under the tree. At first, I thought maybe my parents had just added something late, but the longer I looked at it, the more confused I felt. It wasn't wrapped like the others. The paper was plain brown, folded neatly, no tape visible. No bow, no tag, just a box. It sat slightly apart from the other gifts, angled toward the couch like it had been placed deliberately to be seen first. I asked my parents about it. My mom frowned and said she hadn't put anything else under the tree. My dad said the same. They even joked that maybe Santa made a mistake, but I could tell they were both uneasy. My mom picked up the box carefully and shook it. Nothing rattled. It was heavier than it looked. She turned it over, checking every side. No writing. No return address. No markings at all. My dad suggested we open it together. I don't know why, but I didn't want them to. Something about that box made my stomach hurt. I had the overwhelming sense that it wasn't meant for all of us, that it was meant for me. But I didn't say that out loud. My dad grabbed a pair of scissors and cut the paper slowly, like he was diffusing something. Inside was another box, this one black, completely unmarked. When he opened it, the room went silent. Inside was a cassette tape, no case, no label. Just the tape itself, placed perfectly in the center. My parents stared at it, clearly confused. I just stood there, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. We didn't even own a cassette player anymore. At least, I didn't think we did. My dad suddenly remembered one in the basement, packed away with old electronics. He laughed it off, saying maybe it was some weird prank gift from a neighbor. But I noticed something else. On the inside of the black box lid, written in thin, careful handwriting, were 3 words: "Play IT alone." My parents didn't see it at first. I didn't point it out. They debated what to do with the tape for a few minutes before deciding to throw it away later. Christmas went on. Presents were opened. Breakfast was made. The strange box was set on the counter, forgotten, or so they thought. I couldn't stop thinking about it. All day, my eyes kept drifting back to the kitchen, to where the tape sat quietly, like it was waiting. That night, after my parents went to bed, I couldn't sleep. The house was dark and silent, the kind of silence that feels heavier during winter. Around 1 a.m., I got out of bed. I don't know why I did it. Curiosity. Fear. Something else. I went down to the basement and found the old cassette player in a dusty box, exactly where my dad said it would be. It still worked. The batteries were even inside. I brought it up to my room and locked the door. I sat on my bed for a long time, staring at the tape. Then I pressed play. At first, there was just static. Then I heard breathing. It was faint, but unmistakable. I felt my skin crawl. After a few seconds, the breathing stopped and a voice spoke. It was my voice. Not exactly, but close enough that my chest tightened. Same tone, same slight rasp, same way I said certain words. "I'm sitting in my room," the voice said. "It's Christmas night." My hands started shaking. "I can hear them downstairs," the voice continued. "They think I'm asleep." I turned the volume down instinctively, even though no one else could hear it. Then the voice said something that made my blood run cold. "There's someone outside my window." I froze. Slowly, painfully, I turned my head and looked toward my bedroom window. The curtains were open, and standing in the snow outside, just beyond the glass, was a figure. I couldn't see its face clearly, just the outline of a person standing far too still, far too close. The tape kept playing. "He's smiling," my voice whispered. I screamed and threw the tape player across the room. The sound cut off abruptly. The figure outside my window was gone. My parents came running in frantic, asking what happened. I couldn't explain it. I didn't even try. I just cried and told them I had a nightmare. They searched the yard with flashlights, found nothing. The tape player was broken from the fall. The cassette inside was cracked clean through. My parents threw everything away the next morning. They never found out where the gift came from. No neighbors claimed it. No one admitted to leaving it. We moved the following summer. I'm an adult now. I don't live anywhere near that house. But every Christmas, no matter where I am, I close my curtains before it gets dark. And I never leave gifts under the tree overnight, because sometimes I still wonder if I hadn't played that tape, would the voice have finished the story for me?